Giant Exxon Mobil's increased its cleanup crew, battling the effects of last week's oil spill in the U.S. state of Arkansas. The temporary no-fly zone over the city of Mayflower, where the accident happened, has been lifted, with the media now allowed at the site. Local residents, though, whose lives were affected by the ruptured oil pipe, currently lacking any compensation for the damage. For more analysis on the story, I'm joined live by Charlie McGrath, founder and host of Wide Awake News, a political and current affairs website. So how do you think the progress into the cleanup is going so far?
Well, I believe it was 84,000 gallons initially that they spilled, and we've seen in the Gulf during the BP oil spill that cleanup still continues. So, when something like this occurs, it's devastating to the environment in that area, and most certainly devastating to the people who were living amongst or in and amongst and around this pipeline. So, it's going to be a long haul. This is what happens when these giant oil companies have a massive failure. It's an ecological nightmare.
What do you think can be done to prevent such spills in the future?
I'm certainly not an expert on oil pipelines, but I do know this. A 50-year-old pipeline that is pumping not normal crude oil, but tar sands type bitumen that was thinned down in order to go through this pipeline, and then running it in the opposite direction that it was designed to initially run. There obviously should have been some red flags go up long before this. So, the infrastructure, looking at some of this aging equipment, certainly seems to be something that should be mandated. But we don't do that. We wait till there's a disaster. We wait till there's, a massive loss of wildlife, a massive loss of ecosystem, and then we react. And usually it's a slap on the wrist.
Do you think the residents will be properly compensated for the damages from the spill?
It's hard to say. I'm sure there'll be some kind of a fund. Some people will be benefited for it. But does anybody really recover from this? If you're swamped with oil, it's almost impossible, it seems, to get you back to the kind of lifestyle you had before, or get your property to the condition it was before. But typically, it's what we've seen. Is when these companies have massive failures like this, they end up settling for, maybe millions or billions of dollars, but the long-term cost never seems to be calculated into it, and the people end up usually, it seems like, losing in these deals.
There's also been recent spills in the U.S. state of Texas and in Canada. Do you think that eventually the officials will get the message that they need to improve the maintenance and revamp the infrastructure here?
I would like to think so, but I think if recent history has taught us anything, it is corporate special interest control legislation. They control Washington D.C. on every aspect of the economy, be it big oil, big pharma, be it the financial sector. It's the folks up at the higher echelons of these corporations and the corporations themselves that can afford to grease the wheels of legislation in D.C. So these things benefit them. These are billions of dollars that have to invest in infrastructure now, and most certainly it would be an expensive proposition. But why do this when they can just wait for this disaster to happen? And then in a lot of cases, the bill ends up being shifted to the taxpayer. In fact, I believe in this instance, Exxon potentially could get out of any damages or a lot of the damages because it wasn't classified as crude oil, because it's this bitumen that's thinned down oil sand. So, it would be nice to think, and that's just it, a nice thought to think that we would get some kind of action out of this to look at this aging infrastructure. But our history has taught us that we'll just wait till the next disaster and then worry about the cleanup after.